It's the Caffeinated People Show.
Oh, it is so great to see you this evening. Thank you so much to Platinum Planet Records out there in Nashville, Tennessee. I hope you don't get too much ice and snow tonight, so be careful out there on those roads. Justin Peters, thank you so much for that intro. I have an amazing guy to the broadcast, and I know that I'm friends with a lot of you actors and actresses, and some of you might be starting. I was actually approached today when I had to go pick up my son at Boy Scouts by a little Boy Scouts guy. And he said, I really want to be an actor. And I heard you're an actress. Do you know how I could get started? And his dad was like, time out. And I'm like, yeah, it's a big investment in time. But yeah, I could probably give you a few connections. It was so sweet. So he is going to tell us all about the agency that he has in Los Angeles. And before we get started, though, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor this evening, which is None, right here. None tablets. They also have None instant energy rehydration. So jumpstart your day with None energy. A crafted blend designed to deliver a lift that lasts. I'm going to bring their information up to the screen there so that you can write down their website, which is nunlife.com. That's NUUNLIFE.com. It's 80 milligrams of caffeine in this tiny little guy right here. Only 10 calories, 3 grams of carbs, and 20 milligrams of ginseng, blend of vitamin B12, B6, caffeine sourced from green tea, vegan, gluten-free, great source of electrolytes. So, New Year's is coming up, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all these great holidays where maybe you'll be drinking a little bit. You need to replace your electrolytes. None is going to be great. They have None Energy, and then they have None products that are not caffeinated if you don't want that caffeinated buzz. You can purchase None products at Amazon, Walmart, Publix, Kroger, Walgreens, and on nunlife.com. Get 20% off today. Thank you so much to the None Life people for sending us all these great products and information to share with all of you today. So, hiding out back there in the lobby is a super cool guy. I've got to tell you a little bit about him. Let me get his information up here to the broadcast because we're going to be bringing up Jeff Wolfman, the Jeff Wolfman. 11 years ago, Jeff joined the struggling Fred R. Price talent agency during a recession and writer's strike. While other agencies were closing their doors or contracting, he decided to be bold and expand the agency to representing actors. After a lot of hard work, the agency began to show success. He is now the owner of this fast-growing agency that represents many top American actors. He has booked actors on almost every TV show on the market and placed actors on many well-known Oscar-winning and nominated feature films. I'm so excited. Without any further ado, to the stream tonight is Mr. Jeff Wolfman. How are you?
Hey, everybody. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
So none tablets. I'm going to have to look into that, considering I have none of those.
You have none. You must go get some.
That's right.
They say that they're sold at Kroger, which you guys have Vons. So Kroger and Vons, it's all going to be the same stuff, and hopefully you'll be able to find some near you. But we're here to talk about the Fred R. Price Agency. Would you mind giving us a little bit of the backstory from what I just read from your bio?
Absolutely. So the Fred R. Price Talent Agency has been around for over 20 years, 25 years. It was started by Fred R. Price, who was a big mover and shaker at Warner Brothers. He was the artistic director, and then he moved up into the executive ranks. And then he got a little bit older and he retired. And when he retired, had nothing to do. And this is a story he told me, is a friend approached him with a script. And he said, can you get my script read? And so Fred went to the executives at Warner Brothers, I think at a synagogue during one of the high holidays, and said, will you read my script from a friend of mine? And the executive said, no, I can't. I can only read scripts from sanctioned agents, from WGA sanctioned agents. So he said, okay. He went away. He became an agent, became a sanctioned WGA agent, went back to the executive and said, okay, I'm now an agent, read the damn script. And so the executive read the script. It was never done, but that's what started the agency many years after he retired. So 12 years ago, if you remember, we had a writer's strike in Los Angeles, well, all over the country, and we had a recession. There was the huge recession. And the agencies there was no business. Even the commercials had died out. And the agencies a lot of smaller agencies were closing their doors. The big ones like William Morris and Endeavor had to merge because they were going bankrupt. And so Fred, I was on strike. I was a writer, and I was on strike. And Fred asked if I would help him with the agency. And I went to him and I looked over everything and nothing was going on. I said, hey, listen, while everyone's contracting and getting smaller, let's be bold. Let's expand. Let's open up a talent department, since he was only literary. And he said, go ahead, go do it. So we started with one client, which was the son of one of Fred's friends, a lawyer, who actually did the J.K. Rowling's deal for Warner Brothers. So his son wanted to be an actor. So I said, okay, let's start. And so I started this department during a recession, during strike, with one client. And so what I did two things that were right. The first thing was I scoured the city for the best actors who were underrepresented. So I would go to showcases, I would go to plays, I would go to workshops, I would ask acting coaches, who are your best clients? And I would talk to them and see who didn't like their agent or weren't represented. And I started to sign them. Now, the key is most smaller agents, boutique agencies, they take on probably the best looking people in the world. I mean, just gorgeous people, but generally aren't the greatest actors. So maybe they'll get a job on the WB, but that's about it. What I decided to do was to go for the best actors. And they might not get the auditions right away, but when they do go in for the auditions, the casting directors all the time will say, where have you been? Why haven't I seen you before? And sure enough, they started to get more auditions. And because they're that good, they started to book. And so our agency started to take off. We getting 1,000 auditions a year. Then it moved up to 2,000 auditions a year. We were booking hundreds, and soon it was 300-400 people per year. It got big enough that we opened up a commercial department. And now, after 11 years, we've had over maybe 16,000 auditions. We've booked, you named the TV show, we've had people on every TV show out there. We've had some actors in big movies, Oscar-winning films, Oscar-nominated films. We have one who just came off of Steven Spielberg's new feature, The Fabelmans. And so that was the one thing I did right, was find great actors. The second thing I did right was submitting. It's very common for agents to submit the actor when they are perfect for the role. So you're going to get submitted maybe once, twice a day, if that. I took on what I call the Coca-Cola method of submitting, which is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is the most famous soft drink on the planet, and yet they spend over $4 billion a year in advertising. Why? Everyone knows Coca-Cola. So why do you think they why do you think they spend so much money on advertising this?
Oh, well, because humans are once we see something in repetition, our mind will remember it. So it's almost like subconsciously, we see that commercial. And why do we see the same commercials on TV all the time? You see that same spam commercial. You're going to go to the grocery store, see spam, and go, I think I'm going to buy that today. That's my theory.
No, that's exactly it. Out of sight, out of mind. So they want to keep the product in the mind of the customers all the time. Same thing with me. I decided that I was going to submit my actors as much as possible, even if they don't fit the role perfectly. I still going to submit them, as long as casting doesn't get pissed off. As long as, I'm not going to submit a woman for a guy's role, or African American for a white role, or a young person for a role. But if they're close, and I know they're not going to get an audition, I just know it. They're not right, but they come close, I still submit them. That way, casting will see my clients 7 to 8 times a day. And they're going to see their face every day, and they're going to go, no, 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 no. And sooner or later, they're just going to say, screw it. And they're going to say, let's bring him in and see what they can do.
Yeah.
And that's when the actor takes over. And that's when their talent takes over.
You said something there. I'm going to stop you just for a moment. So excuse me for a moment for stopping you. But you were talking about scouring the city. You were going everywhere looking for talent. You know what? That's a really juicy thing to say to somebody who's in Kansas right now, not near any market at the moment. And they want to just pack their bags and go straight to Los Angeles to be discovered. What is your thought on that? And just what's your thought on that? How about we leave it there for now?
Well, when I started the business, that might have been a great idea. If you have the money to come to Los Angeles and you can pay, the fact is you got to pay rent, so you got to get a job. You have probably very few connections, or maybe you have an uncle or an aunt, and they can help you out. But if you're just starting out, it's very difficult. Don't think for a second you're going to come to LA and make it. It's not going to happen. To succeed, everyone needs to win the lottery. This is a business of winning the lottery. Even Meryl Streep had to win the lottery at the beginning. And then when you're talented, you've got to learn how to stay at the top like she does. But at the beginning, someone had to help her out, and she got lucky because they could have easily picked someone else for her first role or first two roles rather than her. So she won the lottery. So when you come here, you got to be ready to put in the hours and the time to try to win the lottery. And it might not happen, but it's going to take 5-10 years to develop yourself, just like anything else. You can't become a great doctor in 2 weeks of graduating from medical school. You've got to spend years and years. You got to do your internship. You got to do your residency. You got to start your practice. Acting is the same way. I always compare acting to the greatest athletes in the world. I have an athletic background. So I say to actors, what would it take to be a professional basketball player in the NBA, or a football player, or a hockey player, or you want to go to the Olympics? What would it take for you to get to the world-class level? Because there's only a few thousand people playing NBA professional basketball, or hockey, or baseball. Same thing with acting. There's only a few hundred movie stars. There's only a few thousand TV stars. To get to that level, you've got to put in the same amount of effort, time, and commitment that a professional athlete would put in. That means 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, with the best equipment. And even then, you're not guaranteed a job. So,
where were you a couple of years ago? Somebody need to tell my mother that.
well, this is what I'm going to tell your mother now. For nowadays, now that things have become different with streaming, it's become more democratized to get more people to be seen. Now, you can't monetize being seen that much. If you're on streaming on YouTube, you're not going to make any money, but people will now see you. And your thing that you put on YouTube can be seen around the world forever. And there's some people that I know who've put on stuff on their YouTube. They put on a short film, and they get 8 years later, someone calls them up and says, I just saw your video, your short. I loved it. Would you like to be in my project? So this is my suggestion to people all around the world, or around the United States, who want to come to Los Angeles. Before you do that, stay at home, get your best friends together, your fellow actors, your fellow filmmakers, your cousin, your neighbor, whoever wants to participate. Go out and get a camera. It's not expensive to get a camera anymore. Sit down and write a couple short films. Do 2, 3, 4 short films. Put them on YouTube, so you have something that when you do come to Los Angeles, you have something to promote. And you can go to an agent or a casting director or a director or producer and say, hey, look at my material.
That's right.
A lot of people, they don't mind taking 5 minutes to look at your material on YouTube if you've done a short or stand-up comedy or improv. All of it is good. So my suggestion is stay home, get some stuff on tape first, and then once you have a library of material, then come to Los Angeles. Or even better, send it to casting or agents from where you are and let them say, love it, come to Los Angeles.
That's great advice. So, one thing I've noticed in talking to some of the fellow actors and actresses that I've known as I've began, so very green people. My background is in marketing. I have found that that was a very strong tool to have in my toolbox. Do you, as well, do you agree with that? Do you think that, if you have the option of picking up two actors, they're both equally superb, but one of them knows how to market themselves and the other one you're going to really have to work with? I mean, it seems like maybe an obvious answer, but how would you decipher between the two versus who you're going to pick up?
In this business, you have to have self-promotion to succeed. So someone who has a marketing skills, it's going to be better. It's the same thing of when an actor finally gets an agent and the actor just goes, okay, my career's all set now. I got an agent. Wrong.
Right.
The agent is just one tool. Or like I said, you have to win a lottery. So here's my question. Let's say you want to win the lottery. How do you improve your chances of winning the lottery other than going out there and rigging it and fixing the lottery? Let's say you can't fix it. You have to try to win the lottery. How do you improve your chances of winning a lottery? There's only one way. What would that be?
You continue to put money into it. You continue
buy
to
more tickets.
You buy more tickets.
That's it. The more tickets you buy, the better chance you have of winning a lottery. When you come in our business, you got to win the lottery. Whether you like it or not, you got to win the lottery. So you got to buy more tickets. In our business, a ticket is anything that will help you, such as having a good agent, having a great demo reel, having a resume, going to acting classes, having marketing skills, doing your own material, which is the best way if you do your own product. And you never know which ticket is going to win you the lottery. You could be standing in the grocery line waiting to check out, and lo and behold, behind you is Martin Scorsese. And you go, hey, you start up a conversation, and he goes, hey, you know something? I'm working on a project. I think you'd be great. And you go, I just happen to have my headshot in the car. Let me go get it for you. So that could have been your winning ticket, or whatever helps you win that lottery. So when it comes to marketing, that is a great way to have another ticket to win the lottery.
So I have another question for you, which is about the expenses. And you had touched on that, you need to have rent and this, that, and the other. But let's go through the expenses, because there's a lot of necessary expenses that are not on paper to be an actor or actress, especially if you're ready to kick it up a notch. Let's say you already have that invitation, so you're coming out. There's management, there's agencies, there's publicists, there's cost of living, there's your dues. Can you go through some of those expenses of what you could hypothesize they might be?
Sure. First of all, when it comes to an agent or a manager, the good news is, or a publicist, well, not a publicist, but an agent and manager, is there are no expenses. Zero. If an agent or a manager asks you for money, run away. That is a criminal. That is a crook. Agents and managers get paid on a commission. So an agent gets paid, if you're a SAG-AFTRA member, you pay 10% of whatever you make to the agency, with some things that you don't pay. For example, mileage, you don't pay a commission. You have to get a COVID test to be on the set, and they pay you $250 just to take the COVID test. An agent can't get a commission on that. There's certain things that you can't get a commission, but generally anything salary-wise, we take 10% of what you make. If you don't make anything, you don't pay anything. And if an agent or manager, like I said, says, well, I need certain expenses, run away. It's a criminal. Okay? And that's especially for there's a lot of young kids whose parents want their kids to get into show business. And there's a lot of charlatans. There's a lot of grifters out there who will say, oh, I'll be your child's agent, and all he needs are new photos and new classes, and the agent gets a kickback and all that. Again, grifter, run away from these people. So there are no expenses up front for an agent or a manager. Here are the most expenses. Living, you got to live. Whether you're in Topeka or Los Angeles, you got to live. I guarantee you, it's more expensive to live in Los Angeles. The rate of rents are higher, the food is higher, the gas prices are higher.
Oh, yeah.
But on the other hand, you're next to the ocean for 20 minutes, and you're skiing another hour away, and that's why there's 40 million people in California, because everyone wants to live in California. It is the nicest weather on the planet. So less snow clothes, but you still got to live. So, but that's for everything. For an actor and a writer, there are certain expenses. Let's start with the acting. You got to have headshots. You have to have the best headshots on the planet. The most important calling card you have as an actor are your headshots. Casting directors don't know you. They don't. Your resume is probably going to be very slim, so that's your Achilles heel. But look at your resume, especially if you haven't made money in this business. The main thing casting directors don't want to do is to get fired. They don't want to get fired from their job, so they're always reluctant to bring in someone new because they're green and they might screw up on the set. They won't show up on time. They won't hit their marks. They get nervous. So that's why casting directors almost always find people who've already done the work, because they can trust them. They might not even be great actors, but they can trust them to do their job. And so they'll bring them in over and over and over again. So when you're starting out, you don't have a resume, that's your Achilles heel. The only way around that, if you don't know anyone, if you don't know the casting director, is your headshots. So you have to have great headshots. They don't even have to be that expensive. You just have to know how to get the right headshots. And that's what a great agent or manager will tell you how to do. There are tricks to that, which I'll go into another time.
There are. It's not as easy as it sounds.
No, because no one wants just headshots from actors anymore. It used to be just a simple headshot, a smile and non-smile, but it's not like that anymore. One of the reasons we did become successful is because we were one of the first, if not the first, to tell our actors that I want them in costumes. Even though actors were told by casting directors, do not wear costumes, we have an imagination, just headshots are good. Wrong. Casting directors are human beings, and they get fooled all the time. And if they're looking for a cop, and they have one actor in his normal clothes and one actor in a cop uniform, they're going to pick the actor in the cop uniform, because they don't have to use their imagination to see them on the set. Now, as I keep saying with everyone's headshot, if they can see you walking off the set of NCIS, then they can see you walking on the set of NCIS. So if they're looking for a soldier, you should have a soldier uniform. If you're looking for a doctor or a nurse, you should have a shot with a doctor or nurse with scrubs or a lab coat. And think of yourself as from you're born to 18 years old, you're a student. That's about it. You're a student. Maybe you're a bad student, you're a good student, you're happy, you're sad, you're smart, you're a nerd, whatever. But generally, you're a student. From 18 to 65, you're a job. That's what you are. When you go to a party, after they ask your name, what's the first thing they'll ask you?
What do you do?
What do you do? What do you do? What's your occupation? So headshot should be the same thing. What do I do? So if you're a mom, if you're a librarian, if you're a gangster, for every cop show, there's going to be a victim or 2 or 3 victims. So you should have a victim shot. So that's how your headshot should now start to look. And we were one of the first to do it. And sure enough, I started to notice all these actors with looks were getting auditions more than people who just had headshots. So you got to have your headshots. That's your number one tool. That's your number one ticket.
Okay.
To get away from not having a great resume. Then you have to have acting classes. Everyone should be in acting classes. It's very simple, especially auditioning classes. If you're a pro athlete, again, do you expect to be great if you don't practice? If you just happen to wake up in the morning and then just go play a game, you're going to lose. You cannot beat the best in the world if you're not practicing. Same thing with actors. There's so many actors who just sit by waiting to be called. And when they do get an audition, they're either nervous or they just don't do a good job. If you're in acting class, that's like batting practice. That's like going out and practicing tennis or football. You've got to practice every single day. And so you should be in acting class so you're ready to go as soon as you get the call. That's another ticket or tool. Um, and so there's a bunch of these things. For example, every actor, at least in Los Angeles, is probably around living near a writers group. There's a lot in Los Angeles. There's a ton of writers group. Probably in Atlanta there are writers group where writers, screenwriters, playwrights get together and want to have their screenplays read to see if it's any good. Join that group. They always need actors to perform to show them what their screenplay is going to look like. So it's great practice for you, but two, you never know who's going to be the next Spielberg. So let's say one of those writers takes off, and you've helped them in their project to get it off. Well, they're going to, if they're not assholes, they're going to turn around and say, "Oh, he helped me. I'm going to help you." I remember my first project, my first film that I did, my first feature film at least. We were shooting a small budget film, and I asked two people, Ellen Crawford and Michael Genovese, two fairly well-known actors who are series regular on ER.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Sure, I'll do your small little stinky film, Jeff." And they helped out, and I could not be any more grateful. Even when I paid them, if it was a low budget, ultra low budget SAG film, so I gave them their $100, and they said, "I don't need your money," and ripped it up. And so when they did that, once they did that, from the rest of my life, I am now looking out to find ways to help them, because they helped me when I started out. So I will do everything I can to help them. And so if you help people who are starting out and they move up, then they're going to bring you along. So,
That's so true, and it's so beautiful, all wrapped together in one. Let's talk about networking for just a moment, because you were mentioning how casting directors, they don't know you from Adam. So
right.
One of the things that I was doing in Los Angeles was there's an opportunity where you can get in front of casting directors and audition. They're all mock auditions, but it's auditions from wherever they pull them from years of shows past and things. And it's there where you can practice, but you can also show yourself in front of casting directors, and they begin to get to know you. And so I found that to be very resourceful, very helpful. Are there other networking events? Are there any key networking events that are going on right now? This was before COVID, so things may have changed. Possibly they do things a little bit differently, but what's the best way to really get yourself networked as a new actor coming into Los Angeles?
Yeah, well, those are very important. The casting workshops. I've
Yes.
told all my actors to do casting workshops. And that's where casting directors, or generally it was the casting associates or the casting assistants, would come and do a workshop. And don't overlook them. It's the casting associates who actually decide who they bring in for auditions. Casting directors generally don't get involved with co-stars or smaller roles because they're too busy, trying to find other work and dealing with the top of the show guest stars. So the casting associates will go out and make the decisions who come in for the smaller auditions. And you should be doing casting workshops. Before COVID, so what you would do is you'd sign up, you go and you do a scene or a monologue. Don't do a monologue, do a scene. You do it as close as possible to what they're casting. They don't cast people doing monologues. That's for theater. Do like if they're doing a drama, do a drama. Although I recommend you generally do a comedy because they've had a long day and they're pissed off or they're upset. And if you can make them laugh, they're going to remember you. So try to make someone happy. Try to make them laugh. Far better than making them cry at the end of a day, long day.
There was one thing There was one thing that I had done in those casting director workshops, the auditioning workshops. So there was a role that I was playing a receptionist, but she was a very busy receptionist. And I'm reading through the scripts and, I'm working on the background of what I don't have, I'm creating that character ahead of time. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay. And so we had the sides ahead of time. Let me preface that. This isn't where it was just given to you as soon as you showed up. So I knew 24 hours I could work with this thing beforehand. And she was eating. I brought little pretzels and some grapes, and I'm talking, I'm popping the grapes in my mouth, but enough, like you're working with it so you know how audible you are. And I thought that was just common. Like that's what everybody does. It really stopped the room for the other casting directors would go, "Whoa, that's ballsy." Because you know what? We had somebody try that a couple years ago and they choked. So good on you for trying that. What is your opinion of bringing small props like that that are truly supposed to be in the scene?
Generally don't. And especially when you're, because now, by the way, so there are no more workshops in LA, in-person workshops. All the workshops now are Zoom meeting workshops because of COVID. I think that will change in 6 months to a year. We'll get more in person, but if not, the Zoom things are right. But when you do an audition too, you're going to, all auditions, all theatrical auditions right now are self tapes. There are no more in-person auditions. There are a few for commercials, but not for theatrical. So you better learn how to do a self-taped audition. Great. And generally, the casting directors don't want to see you eating or props. But this is what I recommend. If you're seen and it's really important that you're eating and it's in the sides and it's important, take one bite. Take 2 bites at most, and that's it. So take a bite at the beginning of the scene to establish that you're eating something, and maybe halfway through, take another small little bite. Don't eat all the way through the scene because it becomes distracting.
No?
We lose who you are and what you're trying to get across. All we're looking at is your mouth. So take 1 bite, 2 bites tops. Props. Phone is okay if you need a phone. If you're using a phone on the thing, do not ever, ever, ever use a gun. If you have a prop gun, use your phone as a gun. If you need a gun and you're pointing it at someone, put your cell phone in your hand and use that as your gun. It's very distracting to see someone holding a gun.
Right.
Same thing. If most props you can improvise around it, but if it's extremely important to the scene, use it, but use it minimally, as little as possible, because we don't want to distract your acting to keep an eye on your prop, your food, or whatever else is going on. Other thing is, perfect example, we had 2 clients who had an audition for a teacher. It was a small co-star, it was only a few lines. Basically, the teacher is writing something on the chalkboard, and then someone's talking, and some of the students are talking, and she turns around and she reprimands them, and that's the scene. So I had one client who the scene started in the self-tape. She was standing there just facing the camera. She said her line, and the scene was over after 2 lines, something, and that was it. Obviously, she didn't get the job. Had another client who actually started the scene with her back to the camera, and she's pretending to write on a chalkboard. And then she hears something. She turns around, she looks, she finds the student, she reprimands them. She gives the student a look like, don't do it again. She turns away from the camera again and starts writing back on the blackboard. She booked the job. Because she fit the scene exactly what they were looking. Again, the casting directors did not have to use their imagination to see them on the set. They could say, you know something, do exactly what you just did when we have the cameras done, and it's perfect. In other words, we used to say when you went to in-person auditions, be camera ready. For TV, be camera ready, meaning when they see you in your audition, that's what they're going to book. They want to see exactly what you would do. So let's say you book it, and then you change everything, and when you get to the set, they're going to get really pissed off and fire you because they want what you did in the room, and it's the person who did the exact right thing for in the room is who's going to book. Same thing for self-taped auditions now. Make it almost exactly what you think the set would be, within reason. I mean, you can't be in a car chase, but if you're in a car, you could be sitting down driving in your car, or you can enter your car, open the door, sit down, and start your scene. So try to not have them use their imagination. Try to think. You got to put yourself in the shoes of the director now too.
I love that. I really love that. You know, I find that the advice is so different, but the one thing that stays the common denominator is that your job is auditioning. You know, booking it is like that's the piece of cake after dinner. But our job is auditioning, and I love that. You know, Tim Phillips is one of my friends, and so he's written a few books on auditioning for the job. And it's a lovely concept because it forces you into the mental arena of, we are stepping into that. This is my job. This is my chance. I need everything to create the scene. So then you start really working with the script, with your sides, and it's just a wonderful experience. But I do have.
Let me just add to that for 1 second.
Sure.
Just to expand on that idea. A lot of actors, when they go into the audition, now self-tapes are not as stressful, because that's one great thing about self-taped auditions are you can take as many takes as you want.
Mm-hmm.
So if you went into an audition, you'd get 1 take, 2 takes maybe, and then they say bye-bye. Where in the self-tape, you can take 20 takes. And that's the thing with self-tapes. There is no excuse, A, not to get it perfect, because you can do take after take after take.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, there's no excuse not to be off book. When you went into auditions, you had to have you had the script in your hand, and they expected, you can get, like one actor just today just got an audition for NCIS and has a 10-page audition due by tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, holy crap. That's a lot. But I guarantee you he'll be off book, because he's Jonathan Bray and he's one of the best actors in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And he can memorize things, and he's so used to it. He's series regular on show. So he is one of the best actors in the country. So I guarantee you Jonathan Bray will be off book, and he knows his stuff. So if you're doing a self-tape audition, be off book. Keep doing it until you get it right. Mm-hmm. But here's where we're going to add to your thing when you say it's your job. A lot of actors will get nervous if they go in for an audition or a callback. Don't be. This is why. They are not in charge of that room. You are in charge of that room. You've got 5 minutes, 10 minutes to sit there and do what you're going to do. And there's a little secret, which I'm not going to go into. That's what I tell my clients, this little secret that makes them even better. So if you become my client, I can tell you that secret. But here's the most important thing. Think of it as a 5-minute play. You've done plays before. You've done theater. I mean, that's why you want to be an actor. You're now doing a 5-minute play or a 10-minute play. You walk in there. As soon as you walk in the door, curtains open, curtains up. And you are now in charge of that room. It's your play. They're the audience. They've paid a lot of money to sit down and watch you perform. And they literally paid a lot of money. They got to have a camera in the room and everything to rent. So they paid a lot of money for you to entertain them, whatever role you're doing. So here's your moment, 5-minute play. You're in charge. Curtain goes up. They're the audience. You're the actor. Don't ruin the play. Go out there and do your play. Rather than your job, think of it as a play. And you're going to be in charge, and you're going to just, rather than you'll walk out of the audition. So many actors will walk out of the audition and will sit in their car and go, oh, damn, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? I should have done this. And so they leave it in the car and they don't leave it there in front. Well, if you think of it as a play, it's going to be good enough. Don't worry about it. And usually the people who think they did horrible auditions, they're the ones who usually book it.
They book it.
I've
done that to myself a couple of times where I'm driving home and I'm like, oh, and I book it. That is a wonderful shift in power. I want to thank you for everybody who's watching that. It's going to be like that. You're going to get it. That, oh, I get it now. It's a shift in power. I'm the power. And man, that's going to make your audition so much easier. I have a viewer here that does have a question. Ken Dodge is asking, can you explain the difference between agents and agencies, such as Talent Trek?
Such as what?
Talent Trek?
I don't know what Talent Trek is.
I haven't
Never heard of that. So Ken, I'm going to look that up. Thanks for making me do my homework a bit more. Bastard, making me do more work. But Ken, okay, the agency. So I'm an agent. I'm a talent agent. A talent agent in California is licensed and bonded. So we're licensed by the state of California and we're bonded. So in other words, if we abscond with your money, if I end up in Tahiti with a little fruity drink and a little umbrella from your money, you're going to get paid back because we're bonded. The agency is just the company that I work at. Now, I own this agency, the Fred Price Talent Agency, but there's the big ones, the mega corporations like CAA and William Morris Endeavor. ICM has just got bought out by CAA. And then there's the smaller boutique agencies. And they have agents. So that's the agent. A manager, the difference between an agent and a manager, that's important. A manager is someone who has a business card. That's it. They're not bonded. They're not licensed. They're just people with business cards. And some of them are good and some of them aren't that good. And you got to be careful. If a manager comes to you and says, I can do great things for you, same thing with an agent, run away because it's a lottery. But there are some really good managers out there. But you got to be careful that whatever your contract is, do not sign a contract more than a year. Never sign a contract for more than a year. Do not pay 15%. Tell them you're going to only pay them 10%. And you got to also be careful that the money doesn't go to them first. Because you're not bonded. So if they end up in Tahiti with your money, you're screwed. There's nothing you're going to do with it. Where an agent, and that's the interesting thing of what an agent does. There are two types of agents in the acting world. There are the big agents, the corporations like CAA and ICM, and they sit around on their cushy chairs and they field offers. So they wait for the phone to ring. And they'll pick up the phone and they'll say, hey, is Tom Hanks available? And they'll go, yes, no. And this is how much it's going to cost. Because they have the big clients that are fielding offers. Smaller boutique agencies like mine, we do have a couple actors we get phone calls for offers like that. But generally, my clientele are people where I have to solicit work. That's what I am. I'm a licensed solicitor. So we go out and we, through the breakdowns, that's the other expense that I forgot to mention. Actors have to be able to sign up for Actors Access and LA Casting, or Casting Network, I think it's called now. Yeah. And there's a few others, but the two most important are Actors Access, which is theatrical, and Casting Networks, LA Casting for commercials. And you got to sign up for that, and you got to put your pictures on that, and that costs money, and your demo reels. But for an boutique agency, I'm on LA Casting and Actors Access 18, 20 hours a day, looking for the breakdowns and submitting my actors. I'm soliciting work for them. And that's what an agent does. They solicit work. Managers do the same thing. Now in California, it's against the law for managers to solicit work. But they do anyways. No one's going to put them in jail for that. So managers solicit work, but agents are licensed solicitors. The difference is with a manager, if you can't get an agent, get a manager. You need someone helping to represent you. You can get an agent. You don't necessarily need a manager, but if you are going to get a manager after you already have an agent, make sure that manager isn't just duplicating what the agent is doing. If they're just submitting you exactly like the agent is doing, then you're paying 10% of your money to someone who's just doing the same work. Right. Ask that manager when you sit down, what doors can you open up for me? Your agent is your liaison to the casting directors. Your manager should be, if they're doing their job right, the liaison to directors, producers, and heads of casting at studios. So ask them, what doors can you open? What meetings can you get me? Can you get me a meeting with a director, a producer, a head of casting at a network? If they can do that, they're worth their weight in gold. And then the publicist is your liaison to the public.
Love it. Oh my gosh. All right. Let's take a break for just a moment. I have a sponsored partner that I want to mention tonight. And oh my goodness, we're going to have to come back to that. And I'm going to tell everybody, rewind it and listen to that once again. That was some serious knowledge there that every actor and actress needs to know. This is Jeff Wolfman that's on with us tonight. He is telling us about what does it take if you want to move to Los Angeles, become that that great actor or actress that is in every film, every TV. What does it take? It takes a whole lot of hard work, that's for sure. And tonight we have a sponsored partner, which is Vista Front Partners. Vista Front Partners provides investment portfolio management for investors from all walks of life. Whether you're a high net worth investor with sophisticated needs, or a new investor just beginning your journey, Vista Front Partners can help. Their philosophy is simple. Every investor is unique. The portfolio they manage for you is customized to fit your unique goals and risk tolerance. Most firms, they build their business with cookie cutter approach when it comes to managing their clients' assets. That approach does not exist with Vista Front Partners. At Vista Front Partners, they don't just manage your assets, they're taking the journey with you to build the plan for your future and for the long-term financial well-being of you and your family or business. That's why they spend extra time talking to you, to get to know you and to understand your goals and personal vision. It's their job to make sure that they're a good fit for you both before they embark on this exciting journey together towards your success. For more information about Vista Front Partners and the services they offer, message them via the contact form found on their website, which is www.vistafrontpartners, that's VISTAFRONTPARTNERS.com, or give them a call at 859-750-5881. You can also contact JC Swinegruber, that's JC at VistaFrontPartners.com. Read more about the company and the founding partners, JC Swinegruber and Dr. Gary Stratton, at VistaFrontPartners.com today. Thank you so much for your sponsor, partner of this show. And we are on with Jeff Wolfman. Jeff was just telling us all about the agency and how to be represented as a new actor or actress in the business, or possibly you're not just looking for new, right, Jeff?
I'm sorry?
You're not just looking for new talent, right, Jeff?
Looking for anyone who has talent.
Anyone who has talent. I love it. So you had just left us before we took that commercial break. We were talking about managers and what doors can you open for me? So that is a great question to ask for management of what can they do for you. And if you missed that part of the broadcast, back it up just about 3 to 5 minutes and listen to it again, because you just detailed what each one can do between your agent, your manager, and your publicist. And it was absolutely fantastic. But you are also a writer. You have an immense amount of shows in your repertoire. You have several different actors and actresses that you rep that are on major shows right now. Tell me, where would you like to go first? Possibly maybe talk about the actors and actresses that are booking right now?
I'm going to tell you 2 jokes, though, since
we got jokes.
Kind of our liaison or our interval moving on to the production. These are the two agent jokes that I wrote over the years that I learned. And they're bad jokes. Give you a heads up right there.
I love them.
So the first joke is a good-looking actress, really good-looking actress, is at a party. And she walks up to this guy and taps him on the shoulder and says, "Hey, I hear that you're an agent." The guy turns around and says, "Yeah, I'm an agent, a talent agent." And she goes, "Great. Can I ask you a personal question?" He goes, "Sure, go ahead." What? She goes, "Okay. Have you ever gotten together with one of your actors, ever slept with one of your actors?" And the agent was just offended. He said, "No, of course not. I would never do that." And the actor goes, "Oh, I get it, because of morals and ethics, right?" And he goes, "No, because none of my clients like me." So
I like my jokes. You can tell. I like them.
So here's the second one. So
Okay.
This is important. This is this was in a script that I wrote called Ruby Tuesday, which we'll talk about because
Yes.
it's something for you and something that every creative person on the planet is going to love. But in the script, so there are 3 ways to make it in this business. If you ever ask, how do you make it in the show business, in the entertainment world, there are 3 ways and only 3 ways to make it in show business.
Okay.
The first way is you know someone. you're related to them, you're the child of someone, you're married to someone. That is called nepotism. Okay. The second way is that you're rich. You're born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You can buy your way into the business. That's called providential. The third way is you whore and skank your way to the top. That's called being a talent agent.
Those are good.
So,
Oh my goodness. So,
before we go into the show, yeah, some of the clients, I'd love to, I mean, here's some of the good stuff that there's a lot of good, a lot of bad in the agency business. The good part is, my favorite part is calling an actor and telling them they booked a job. It's the only fun I get because I always play with them first. I always start with something like bad news and get them upset. And then I break it that they booked the job, which they hate me for, but it's the only fun I get. So I'm going to do it anyways. But some of my clients, for example, Christina Karras, an Atlanta gal, she is in Law and Order, Organized Crime. She's just started her second season. She plays Dana, who is Dylan McDermott's daughter. She's the bad one. She's part of keeping the mob organization going. But she's great on the show. Just flew to New York, and she just shot her first episode of season 2. Wow. So you can watch Law and Order. You can watch the first season of Law and Order, Organized Crime. She's in that, and she'll be in the second season, the second part of it. Sofia Copera just shot. She's 6 years old, and she just came off of shooting 2 months with Steven Spielberg and his new show, The Fabelmans. She is just an amazing actress at 6, just very natural, and she's already done a morning show with Jennifer Aniston, and she's coming off several different projects now. So she's doing great. Christopher Chen is starting to shoot his second season of The Rock, of Young Rock, which shoots in Atlanta, and he's starting that up in a month. The second season, he gets to perform with Park and The Rock. Who else? There's Jonathan Bray. He just shot King Richard. That's coming out now. That's with Will Smith. That is about Serena Williams and Venus Williams and their father. So that's Jonathan. Dennis Darrow, he's shooting his second episode of Mr. Mayor next week.
Wow.
Nina Mistry is a series recurring on Ordinary Joe. And then we have just a group of really talented actors who are starting up, where you're going to hear their names soon. They're just so talented, like Grace Noble and Rowan Hall, Ace Gibson, who's probably one of the best actors on the planet. He's done a lot of things, and I can go on. Marathon Jackson, Katie Dalmas, Christy Deloney, Joseph Dooley, Jason Grazo, Michael Kelly, Sawyer Patterson, Galia Vidal, Chad Wood. These are all actors you're going to hear soon because they're just so talented.
So 11 years ago, you started with one
client.
How many do you have today?
Around 150.
Oh.
I want to keep it around 100, between 125 and 150 is what I like it at.
Oh my goodness. Congratulations on that success. That's a lot of man hours, to keep those guys working.
Yeah, I work 20 hours a day, believe it or not.
No, I get it.
Yeah, that's why I kind of enjoyed COVID. I actually got to sleep for a little bit.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's talk about some of the projects that you have upcoming. I have in my notes here a TV documentary called Labor Wars, and this one sounds really interesting. So, history of labor unions and how they fought the industrial giant that the U.S. is today. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Labor Wars is it's a 11-hour, 7-part show. It could be 10 parts. We're deciding how to break it up. And basically, if you want to know the history of the United States, follow the history of the labor movement in the United States. My contention is that all the great events in this country, in this world, were based on the labor wars that were going on from the American Revolution. The American Revolution was a labor war. It was the colonists trying to get control of the labor from England. And so that was the very first labor war of the United States. All the way we can move up to the Civil War. The Civil War was a labor war. It was to end slavery. We can move through the Gilded Age to when union started and to union now, to get rid of child labor, to get women's rights, women's voting rights was helped by the labor movement. There's so many interesting stories. Everything from Martin Luther King. Here's a perfect example. Martin Luther King died. He was assassinated in Nashville. What was he doing in that city at that time?
Oh, he was creating a huge movement.
Actually, what he was doing was he came to support the strike that the sanitation workers were in. So there was a sanitation strike going on in the city, and he came there to support the strike, the sanitation strike.
That's
when
right.
he was assassinated. And when he was assassinated, then they took his body, they brought it back to Atlanta to sit, and his wife, Corinne, came to Nashville to continue the march and help the strike. That's an interesting story. There's all these stories when we're child labor. I remember this one piece where the children were in the mills. They usually died by the time they were 14 to 16 because of all the dust and asbestos that went on. And they would literally sit there working their little fingers off. Outside the window of this mill was a golf course. And they were watching the adults play. And you sit watching them golf while they were in the mills working.
Breaking.
These 8, 9-year-old kids, the kids who were in the mines working their fingers, because the adults, these were mining towns where the adults were, they owed money to the mine. They weren't paid in money, they were paid in script. And they would go to the store and buy in script, but they were always short, so they got in debt all of a sudden. And so the managers would come to the family and says, okay, you're too big to work in the coal mines, I want your child, because their small little hands could reach for the coal. So all these stories, there's so many of these great stories from the beginning of the American Revolution to present day of how the unions brought United States to becoming the first world nation as it was.
Wow.
The middle class was built by unions. That is a fact. The middle class was built by unions. The stronger the unions were, the stronger the economy got, the stronger the middle class got. To me, the Gandhi of the United States is a man named Walter Reuther, which we have another script, by the way, called Reuther. He, to me, is my hero. His philosophy is my philosophy, is that if we treat everyone as our neighbors, we would have a much better world. If everyone in this world, we thought of our neighbor we liked, we could make life so much better. And he had his hand. Every good thing in this world, Walter Reuther touched, starting from the unions to pensions, to health cares, to vacation time. But he also was, most amazing, he helped win World War II. When before World War II started, he came up with a plan to turn the auto factory. He was the president of the UAW, by the way, and then president of CIO. He had a plan to turn the car factories into building tanks and planes and getting ready for Hitler and the Nazis, because he said Hitler's not going to wait for us. And they all, before war, started to make fun of him. What do you know? You're just an engineer. You don't know anything about life. Ford himself said, we can't turn the factories into making planes, because I hate to tell you, Walter, cars don't fly. Can't do it. He said, well, you better get ready for it, because to build all these new factories that the owners wanted, like Ford and GM, it's going to take billions of dollars and years to build it, and we can't wait. And sure enough, World War started. Franklin Roosevelt said, wasn't there a plan about turning these factories in? And they said, yeah, a guy named Walter Reuther. Walter Reuther was brought into the White House, met Franklin's wife, Eleanor. They got along famously. They had this plan, and that by the end of the war, Chrysler and GM were bragging to the country that their factories had all of a sudden turned 98% of their factories were making war property to fight in World War II. And that's what won the war. It wasn't the fact that we were better. We just had more equipment.
Wow.
So the war was won on the backs of the union laborers in Michigan and Ohio and Indiana. And so that's what this Labor Wars documentary will talk about.
That is a fascinating load of information. I know that it's packed full of even more information. Is this will it be released as episodic, or is it a film? And if so, how long is it?
Yeah, it'll be a TV show. It's episodic. It's 7 to 10 parts.
Ooh, I get to binge watch it. I love this.
And we already have 40 famous actors signed up to do the voiceover. It's very much, if you remember the Civil War, Ken Burns' Civil War series, it's in that vein of shooting where the actors will be voiceovering Lincoln. Lincoln was a huge Union supporter. John F. Kennedy was. So the actors will voice the people throughout the history. Everything from Benjamin Franklin. Mm-hmm. Benjamin Franklin lived in Philadelphia. Everyone knows him from Philadelphia, but he came from Massachusetts. Why? Why did he move to Philadelphia? Interesting story. It's because he was an indentured servant, i.e. a white slave. His family were poor, and so the father kind of sold him to his older brother as an indentured servant. And he said, I don't want to be an indentured servant, a slave. So he ran to Philadelphia because Pennsylvania wouldn't extradite him back to Massachusetts. So Benjamin Franklin was a slave and supported the labor movement, even back then in the American Revolution.
That is fascinating. You have a lot of projects working on at the same time. And the other one I wanted to touch back to a few moments ago, you had mentioned Ruby Tuesday. So Ruby Tuesday is a film, feature film that I have here in my notes. So tell us a little bit about that feature film. I have a feeling it's going to be very different from the documentary we were just talking about.
Ruby Tuesday is a romantic comedy. It's an indie romantic comedy in the vein of, think of Lady Bird meets Annie Hall with a wee touch of Napoleon Dynamite. Yes. It's very quirky, and it's about you. You were telling me before we met. Tell me a little bit about you wanting to get into the entertainment business first.
Oh my goodness, yes. So it all started. My sister's 15 years older than I, and this factors into that story because she got married very young. So by the time she was getting married, I was 4 or 5 years old, and the cameras came out, right? Because you need pictures for a wedding. And as soon as I got in front of a camera, I'm like, this is it. And I begged my mother, begged her. We live in New Jersey, so my city is New York City. And I said, Mom, come on, I want to do this. I want to get in front of the camera, acting and modeling, and I want to do it. And, in 1980, New York City was not the place for a child actor or child model to be starting up in a family that had no clue what they were doing. And so I totally respect my mother's decision. She basically said that. She said, I don't know how even to get you started. I don't know how to protect you. And so we didn't. So I held off. And then by the time I was 18, I was in Western North Carolina. There was not a market. And I went into marketing and corporate. So it was stalled for a moment. Finally had my moment at 35 and everything's taken off. So right moment, right time. But that's my backstory.
So why did you want to go into the entertainment business?
Oh,
what was it that drove you there?
I love the camera lens. Any camera lens. It doesn't judge you. It's non-human. You get to be anything at all imaginable. It just comes out. And it's that magical relationship with any type of lens. It could be on a computer. It could be on a phone. It could be an actual camera. Does not matter to me. That's my love.
So Ruby Tuesday is very much about you and every creative person on this planet. It is an anthem to all the creative people on this planet who want to get their work seen. And it's a story about a young girl named Ruby Tuesday, Ruby Frances Tuesday. And no, she wasn't named after the Stone song. And she hates that people mention it. It had nothing to do with it, but she's heard all the jokes. And when she was growing up, all she ever wanted to do was to be in showbiz. That's it. She doesn't know why. She just knows she has to be in show business. Unfortunately, unlike you, she doesn't have any talent. She can't act, she can't sing, she can't dance.
Oh my God.
But she has to be in the business. So her uncle Olaf, who is her connection to the biz, who owns a hamburger joint. He used to be an actor, but he realized there's more money in burgers than there are in entertainment. Mm-hmm. He gives her the Hearts of Darkness documentary. Do you remember the Hearts of Darkness documentary is a documentary of Francis Ford Coppola's making of Apocalypse Now. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a real documentary. Mm-hmm. So Uncle Olaf gives Ruby this documentary, and in it, Francis Ford Coppola says that his dream is that someday the technology of filmmaking will advance to the level where some little fat girl from Ohio will become the next Mozart and make her movie masterpiece. And when she sees that, she's now inspired. That's what she's going to do. I am going to be that little fat girl and make a movie masterpiece.
That's right.
So her first thing is that she's going to enter the Thunderdance Film Academy, where all the great kids go to become filmmakers. Mm-hmm. Why? Because that's where all the great filmmakers go to give a speech. Spielberg and Rob Reiner and Robert Redford, and they all go there. So she joins the Thunderdance Film Academy. Next thing she does is she gathers all her misfit friends in the school, and she decides together they're going to make her movie masterpiece. With no money, by the way, and she's a guerrilla filmmaker. Third is she's going to get her film submitted and accepted into the Thunderdance Film Festival, where everyone wants to get their film. And it's kind of a parody of Sundance.
It is kind of.
Right. So the thing is, though, Ruby starts to realize that roadblock after roadblock is put up against her because A, she's at the bottom of the totem pole of the entertainment field. She's a film student. And B, she's a female filmmaker. In this world, female filmmakers are not looked upon that highly. So she's got even that roadblock to come through. But she jumps over after hurdle to make her movie masterpiece. And it's a very funny film. And for everyone out there who's ever wanted to take their iPhone or their Samsung phone and make a movie, this film is for you. The 577 million iPhone owners out there, or every single person who's ever thought of being creative, and that's everyone. Mm-hmm. Because you can go through life being a marketing person, and it's nice, but I bet you've always had the desire to be creative somehow. This story of Ruby Tuesday is for you. It's an anthem to all the creative people out there wanting to make their movie masterpiece.
So when could we see possibly these two projects or some of the other projects coming forward? What are the release dates, especially for Ruby Tuesday and for the Labor Wars documentary?
Well, we're still in financing for all that. So nothing's been shot. Nothing's been shot. We're in financing. And once we get financing set away, then boom, we're off and running.
Very interesting. Well, congratulations on all your success. You have fed us a full meal of information. I can't even thank you enough with everything that you've shared with us tonight. And the moment and space that you've had for me has been delightful. So Jeff, I want to say thank you so much. Do you have any closing words for our viewers? I'm going to put up your information on the screen here, which is going to be your email address, the name of your agency, and who would you want to hear from? I guess maybe is a better question. Who should call you?
Who should call me? Besides Steven Spielberg?
Sure, yeah.
I'd love to talk to President Obama or President Biden. That'd be nice, but I don't think they're going to be calling me.
They might.
So who do I want to hear from after this? You. Let's talk about agencies and see where your career is heading.
Wow. Okay. My goodness. Well, I've got your phone number, and so does everybody else. If you have any questions for Jeff Wolfman at Fred R. Price Talent Agency. You can email him at jeffwolfman@sbcglobal.net. Does that sound correct to you?
Yeah, actually better.
Okay.
It's jeffwolfman.frp@gmail.com.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
That's a better one to reach me because it's more business.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that information with us. And I thank you so much for being on the show. Have a wonderful evening. It's still early out there in California. And you are right. It is a magical spot on this earth. It's got to be the most beautiful state in the entire Union of the United States. And I'm jealous. That's what it's coming down to. I'm absolutely jealous. So enjoy
This was
it
a
tonight.
delight, by the way. Thank you so much. You're an amazing interviewer.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, you can hang tight and we'll talk in the green room again, but I'm going to close out the show for just a moment. So have a good night, Jeff.
Ciao, everyone.
Wow, everybody. That was an amazing interview. I had so much fun. And boy, oh boy, I saw you guys connected and commenting. I tried to put as many comments up. You know, usually I close out the show with another thank you to the sponsor. And I do want to say thank you just really, really quickly to None. So None tablets, they're energy tablets. They're full of B vitamins, ginkgo biloba. They're available just about anywhere that you would want a little electrolyte boost. They're GMO free, soy free, vegan, gluten free, free, except you do have to buy them. But they're great electrolytes. So go find them for all your holiday parties. And this is what this is true, dear to my heart. I'm going to bring up to the broadcast so that you can see in full picture. This is my friend Ernie Johnson here. And his son, Michael Johnson, passed away yesterday. And I just want to say to the Johnson family, I am so, so sorry. Michael was a wonderful young man. I got to meet him at this Christmas party that you see a picture here on the screen. And he loved to collect keys. He had muscular dystrophy. He was 33 years old and he passed away yesterday. Ernie is the lead voice for MLB on Turner Sports. And he's fantastic. Of course, you know, he's got accolades upon accolades. He is a wonderful man, a wonderful family. And I want to say I am so very sorry for your loss. Everybody, as always, we are blessed. You are blessed. And I love you. Thank you so much for watching the show. I will be back again.